Okay, so you're setting up a new business on the Northern Beaches, hopefully, but what do you do when you want to move into commercial property? This is the A to Z, the ABC in the leasing of commercial property. Stay tuned.
Good morning, Mr. Novak. How are you, sir? Good. You?
Good,
How you doing?
You?
Really
nice,
good.
Nice,
really good.
Ready to rock and roll. Got an auction today. Plenty of open houses. All is well.
It's all happening, and I love it. Saturdays for us, it's like it's the end of the week, but it's the week where everything culminates, and you push on, you give it your all. So then on Sunday, you can kick back and then reset for that Monday to come. But today's topic, Mark, as we've been having a little pre-chat, is getting into you're in the position of being a tenant, a commercial tenant. You wanna get into a commercial property. What do you do?
Yep.
And I think a lot of time, even for yourself, I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time. You probably get people that are just fresh, that are just getting in there. They want to start something new. They have no idea what they want, except that they want to open up something. So I think question for you, just to kind of kick things off, is what is the initial thing that you want to do, or what is the one thing you'd want to focus on if you, let's say, want to open up a retail shop, for instance, as a tenant?
Well, I guess you want to address frustrations that you currently have in your existing format. So most of the time, it's not a brand new business and a brand new commercial property. Probably most of the time, it's you've started on a great business. You may be frustrated because your house isn't big enough, or your garage isn't big enough, or your current premise isn't big enough, and you just want to go, okay, I want to make that next step. So you want to address maybe storage. You want to address having customers over and feel like they're going to get a bit of an experience rather than walking down the side of your house. I guess it's just leveling up a little bit and taking your business to a new level. So it doesn't have to be expensive either.
No, that's true. It doesn't need to be expensive, and I think key factors, especially if it is a new business, getting into a lease can be something quite daunting. It's a contract. You're signing on with someone, and you've got to follow what's in that contract. But I think if you're a new business, let's say, and you're getting into a lease, you'd probably want to look at negotiating with your agent or with the landlord a short-term lease to start off with. You test the waters, you go for something short, but then you look at options to renew. Now that incentivizes, at least with the landlord or the owner, to say, okay, great, you're going to kick on for maybe just for a short period of time, test it, I get it, but then let's look to see if business does good. It's great. You can look to further stay on and explore the business even further. So I think that's one of the key things. You're getting into commercial, it's negotiating your lease term. I think another one as well that I'll bring up is, you want to kind of do your homework with the area that you're exploring. I think a lot of people you're new, you see a shop, like, oh, that's great, perfect, it's an awesome shop, but foot traffic, it's not off the main drag, it's tucked away somewhere. So I'm sure you've experienced it as well, where it's like you want to guide someone, especially if you're a good agent, especially if you're someone that cares. You want to guide someone to know the area a little bit, give them a bit of backstory, give them a bit of information to draw them to the right property. So that's kind of like my initial point. But go on.
And Nath, I think also when you're dealing with a real estate agent, and it's the ABC, it's your first rental. That's what this session's about. It's about just educating people that are just about to take on a commercial lease, what they have to do, what they don't have to do. I must admit, if you can, like most of the time you can, if you can, don't be gun shy about what you're going to be using the property for, and being really open with your agent, because a good commercial agent will find workable solutions. So you may think that property may not suit for parking or storage, and you actually mention that, and then the agent goes, well, actually, this landlord owns 4 other ones in the building. We can give you some parking if you pay a little bit more. We can give you some storage if you do want to take it. So I think my point is, be really brutally honest with your commercial agent that you're dealing with. Tell them your use, tell them your desires, tell them the frustrations of what you're doing with your business. And a great commercial agent has that sort of entrepreneur attitude where they can make it happen, they can facilitate, they can fix things. Signage is another thing like that, where once you're in, you're not really in a position to be cheeky and ask for stuff, otherwise they're going to want some money. But before you go in, you can actually negotiate some really good window signage, outdoor signage, on top of the awning signage. Even if the signage isn't on your building, it could be on the other side of the street that the owner owns. Talk about these things with the agent, please.
Absolutely. That's such a big key thing for an agent dealing with a new client. It's like, okay, great, you want to open up something. What is it that you want to open up? Getting really gritty with it and getting those facts right from the start, it really helps the process going right down to the very end. And I'll give you a prime example on the side of things to do with signage. I had someone that's wanted to open up, for instance, a delicatessen in Manly, one of the little shops there. Now, one of the things to look at was, okay, great, it's a retail shop. That's brilliant. It had never been anything other than just a general retail shop. Now, this person wanting to open it up as a delicatessen, if you looked at, and this is the thing, if you looked at the zoning and you look down in terms of what was allowed and what was not allowed, it was actually borderline prohibited to open up anything like that there. But a good agent or someone that knows what they're talking about looks down at everything that you can and can't do within that zoning, and then you can see there a delicatessen can be opened up as a neighborhood shop or a neighborhood market, based on consent, of course. They go through a CDC process and bang, magic happens, and they can open up that delicatessen they've been dreaming about. But that comes with experience, that comes with knowledge, and feeding someone that information that's really new to the whole thing really goes that extra step. But as far as, the little things that you can negotiate within a lease, primarily, you need to know what one is to look after in the lease and what one's not to look after in a lease. And it comes down to
That's a big one. That's a big one. Yes,
that's a big one. And I think
insurance is in that as well.
Correct. And it comes down to, we pull for instance, the AC that's on the wall. Who's in charge of that in the lease? Is it the landlord or is it the tenant? And so it's one of those things where you really want to, if you're new, you want to break down and find the key responsibilities that you're obviously have to take care of in the lease versus what the landlord or the owner has to take care of. But again, Mark, what's some other things that, let's say, a newbie in the commercial leasing world needs to look out for?
Yeah, look, I think that's a cracker what you mentioned. Those things that's your responsibility and the landlord's responsibility can add up to thousands or tens of thousands over the term of the lease, maybe even hundreds of thousands. Insurance, if it says simply that the tenant must look after the fire services of the building, that can actually mean that if it becomes in breach, the fire services, that the tenant could be up for massive amounts. For example, if the government makes a change where they want to have the proper piped hydrant system to the shop, just because the legislation changes in the state or federal government, that could be on the shoulders of the tenants that are in properties. So, guys, back to rental commercial for dummies. We need you to check when you're entering to a lease what your ongoing responsibilities for money is going to be. Think about insurance. Think about air conditioning. Think about another thing we've spoken about is signage, getting that right. Anything else before we sign
well,
off?
I think as well, there's another thing besides just the annual amount that you'd pay. You got to think as well, there are things known as outgoings. And I think a lot of people get hit in the face with that, especially when they're new. You know, you've negotiated the price for the year, you're wrapped and you're happy. And the next thing you know, it's like, what are outgoings? Now, outgoings can vary. And they're quite negotiable. You know, things to do with your building insurance, that we mentioned before, land tax. It comes down to even water as well, council rates. So if you can negotiate those, or you can almost treat it as what's known as a gross lease, where those amounts are fixed into the yearly amount, you know, you don't feel like it's extra money or extra income that's coming out of you come the time that you have to pay your rent. So that's another key factor to look into.
Okay, and then also, and you know, you can understand people going into commercial leases and missing one or some or all of these things, because it's completely different to residential. Residential doesn't have any of these costs. Residential doesn't have a fixed increase, so there can be a fixed increase of 5, 4, or 3%, or a thing called CPI. So you've got to watch out for that as a commercial tenant, because you may just think CPI, whatever, it's nothing, it's a small percentage, but it actually starts compounding every year. So watch out for your fixed increases is another one. Definitely.
That is a big one you've got to look out for. But these are things, again, you know, you're new to the industry. You want to make sure that you're dealing with either, if you're going through privately, you're dealing with an owner or a landlord direct, or if you're dealing with an agent, someone that's honest, someone that'll give you the facts. And if you feel like you're being taken care of, the process is so streamlined, it's fantastic. Yeah.
It is. Now, what have we missed on commercial rentals for dummies? The ABC of renting something out. What?
Oh, actually, before anything, this is another big one. I think a lot of people don't realize that an incentive that they can, you know, being a newbie into it all, is you can't imagine that you're going to go into a shop and you know, you need the time to fit it out just the way that you like it, right? So there's always that ability, there's always that factor where you can say, I'm looking for at least 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And it can always depend on the size of the property or the fit out, is how long you'll need without having to pay rent in order to get those things done. And that's such a big one, because a lot of people don't realize that you can ask for that, especially when you're new. I think when you've got a bit of experience, you know that that's one of the first things that you'll go about wanting to negotiate with someone. It's like, great, I'll go for that one there. I want 4 months rent free. And it's like, can it be justified? Can the owner or the landlord see that that's a realistic time frame that you need to get things done in their property? And if you can find common ground in that, that's another big one that can help someone that's new to it all.
And also, guys, when you're looking at places out there for rent-free, consider the style of property is. If it's something that's been vacant for a long time, you will find the landlord may put 6 months rent-free up there for a good tenant. If it's hot shit, if it's a property that's, you know, super cool location, super cheap rent, you know, it's going to rent very, very, very quickly. The landlord's going to be less reluctant to do any rent-free or some rent-free. So just bear that in mind when you're taking a premises.
Absolutely. And the one last thing I'll add to that is, apart from just the rent-free, you could always negotiate to have part of your fit-out cost, you know, being contributed by the owner, by the landlord. You know, you don't always have to just go dive deep in for some period of time of rent-free. You can explore, hey, is there any chance that you could look to you know, fork out a bit of dosh to help me with this part of my build here? And look, I'll ensure to stay for this length of time, and I'll ensure to put forward this % of annual rent review. So again, it's for all parties to be happy and to say, hey, you know what? I like what you're saying here. I like what this is saying here. Let's work together. And it's about working together. So that's the big thing there.
Beautiful. Well, mate, hopefully this has helped someone out there, people. Hopefully we've helped you. Send this to a friend that is taking a commercial property, and hopefully we can help them out. And Mr. Commercial Expert Nathan ARAYA, leasing expert of the Northern Beaches, mate, thank you so much. Really good information.
Have a good morning.
See you guys. Take care.
Cheers,
See you,
guys.
man. Bye-bye. Bye.